welcome again, and this is Louis Lowe hosting you from live from Palo Alto with my good friend Steve Obenski from Xero Systems. Steve and I have been talking about getting together some leaders in artificial intelligence and talking about challenges both to product development and product roadmap, and of course adoption, and lots of other topics. So if you're here to listen to leaders talk about artificial intelligence, you're in the right place. If we could just have everybody introduce themselves quickly. Steve, why don't you kick us off?
Absolutely. Great to meet everybody. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Xero Systems. Been there about 6 years. Did some other legal tech before that, and am a lawyer by background. Worked at a San Francisco firm, Morrison Foerster, and also in Washington, D.C.
Alex.
Thank you, Louis. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex Babin, CEO and co-founder of Xero. And there's not that much special about me. I'm not a lawyer by background. But I work with amazing people and the team of great professionals who combined have about 125 years of legal tech experience. Folks like Ryan Stedman, Chris Ford, Joey Perez, Alex Volkov, and the rest of the team. So those folks are great.
Thank you. Olga Mack, thank you for joining us this morning. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Louis, thank you for inviting me, and Steve and Alex. Majority of people I meet who are special are not lawyers, although lawyers are pretty special too. So it's great to be in your company. I'm the CEO of Parley Pro, which is easy to use, highly collaborative contract lifecycle management platform. We have pioneered the online or digital negotiation technology. I am an attorney by training. I had an opportunity and the pleasure to work in Big Lot, Wilson Sonsini, Fortune 500 company, Visa Inc., and numerous hot pre-IPO startups. And it's absolute pleasure and honor to have an opportunity to build the future of law and to be here and share this vision with you.
Oh, thank you, Olga. Thanks for bringing us your energy and your hustle. Really appreciate it. And thanks for introducing Parley Pro, which is an amazing contract management platform that I think is just taking off in no small part because it's an awesome product, but obviously the bigger part is Olga. So thanks, Olga, for joining. Steve and Alex, could you give us just a minute about what each of your companies does and how it uses AI? Steve, do you want to start?
Sure. Xero is how you know what's in your contracts. A lot of companies have contracts that they have tucked away in a virtual filing cabinet. And what Xero is an AI-assisted contract review tool that helps lawyers go through and find the things that matter. We started with M&A due diligence, and because that's obviously a moment when you need to look at the contracts of a company more. And we're very proud that, like, as the technology using AI, using machine learning specifically to find clauses in contracts, it's become easier than ever to actually do that. And so it used to be you'd only really embark on hiring lawyers to go through and read every page of contracts looking for something risky if it was a multi-million-dollar transaction. And now we're seeing, people really understand that they can pretty much do that whenever they need to get a quick view of what's in their contracts. So yeah, happy to be here and really pleased for the opportunity, Louis, to talk about here.
Thank you, Steve. Alex, tell us about Xero.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Louis. So Xero helps law firms to get one step closer to holy grail of operational excellence. And we do it by helping and saving attorneys time on email and document management, and by providing new revenue with automatic time capturing. And it makes it truly the ROI on the first day by finding millions of dollars of lost revenue for our clients. We have developed a first ever mobile email management solution designed for legal professionals, launched in 2018. Now we have over 25 MLO 250 firms using it, and to help thousands of attorneys every day to get back, I would say, the most precious asset anyone has, time. That's what we do.
Thank you. And as most of you know, I'm Louis Lowe. I'm just a simple Silicon Valley country lawyer. I live and work here in the center of where it happens, and I have so much fun working with tech companies in all stages of growth, helping them get from formation to financing to scaling and to exit. And I am a customer of each of these great companies and a big fan of each of our panelists. And so I'm really proud to have them here. Just quickly, housekeeping, we are recording. We'll share a blast of the recording afterwards, as well as the slides. And it would be great if folks would use the Q&A feature to drop in questions. I will try and monitor it and interrupt people when the question is directly relevant to the discussion. And if not, we'll hold it till the end, and we'll take 5 or 10 minutes and go through all of them on a penalty basis, like overtime in soccer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my good friend Steve here from Kira Networks, who wants to kick us off with a few statistics about artificial intelligence. Steve?
Thanks, Louis. Yeah, so I always feel like it's important to ground a conversation in data. And since our topic is the adoption of AI technologies, I went to the best source that I'm aware of, which is the ILTA, International Legal Technology Association. If people don't know it, it's a great organization. They do an annual survey of law firms on all types of practice and also business-related technologies that they use. So I went to that to sort of say, hey, well, I wonder, what they can tell us about the actual adoption of AI technology. So this was from the 2019 survey. We haven't updated it for the 2021 that just came out about a month ago. But as you can see, what we did is we went through and actually did a little bit of additional analysis on top of the ILTA data. So there's a whole page on redlining tools and which redlining tools, for example, people are using. But I think we're seeing your slide sorter. There we go. Go back to one more slide. Yeah, there it is. So what we did is we went through and we said, how many people said none for any of those categories versus saying something? So the green bar says they were using something, and the bluish part are people who said none, right? So as you can see, something is like redlining is already very ubiquitous. Whereas when you go down this list, we sorted them based on category. There was this ambiguous category of machine learning tools, which had only 22%. Now, that some people may think is a bit odd because machine learning tools do a whole bunch of different things. And so, in fact, ILTA itself thought that was needing to be broken out. So they partnered with an organization called Blickstein to do a deeper survey on that that came out earlier this year. And Louis, if you go forward one slide, we have some of the data from that. So what the Blickstein people did was actually do an additional survey of law firms and ask them not only what type of tool, what specific tools were they using, but also were they just a proof of concept at this point in their firm, or were they integral to their daily operations on a scale from 1 to 5? And you'll see here, unsurprisingly, e-discovery, the most widely adopted of AI technologies because it has been in the market for 15 or so years now. Whereas as you move down to some of the other areas, you don't see as wide adoption. And if we click through one more slide, you get a level deeper of this kind of analysis, and you can start to see how many tools there are within each category and how diverse the application of AI actually is. So this one is just jumping into Kira's space specifically, which in the Blickstein survey, they called contract management post-execution. There's a whole page of pre-execution for contracts as well. And here you start to see even that there's actually quite a lot of diversity in tools that help you find things or do things with contracts post-execution. For example, HiQ is a tool that many of you may know, especially larger law firms use as client portal. Well, that's really just a way of exchanging information and doing some analysis and dashboarding, right? We actually integrate at Xero with HiQ. And you also see ones in here like Clause, which are really more about like post-execution contract obligation tracking and management, right? So there's a huge amount of diversity in the ways that you can apply AI to different problems. I'm sort of excited that somebody's digging in and doing this kind of data at this level because there is so much there. And I think it starts to show that in fact AI, whatever that means, which in fact Alex is going to talk about in a second, is really ubiquitous now across the range of practice tools that lawyers use. So with that, I'm happy to hand it back to Louis to introduce the next section.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alex, I would love for you to tell us, what is AI?
Well, thank you, Louis. Like, there is no answer what is AI. It's more about what AI can do for you or for end user, right? And we know that AI itself, well, it's kind of a very generic term that is being abused a bit more than we think it should be. It's basically all about, and I heard the term as a joke, a term of artificial irrelevance instead of artificial intelligence, because sometimes the label AI is kind of being applied to anything, and in the essence, it should be answering the question what this automation or machine learning tools can do for the end user. It's very important to answer that question first, because before we dive into what technology it is built on and all other technical parameters. And the best, based on my experience, the best answer to ROI is not just about what it does, but also how fast it provides the results. So ideal ROI is ROI on the first day. We rarely see that, but in cases of contract management, and e-discovery and all that stuff, it's always in there. So you can measure what has been before and what happened after, and those time savings and new revenue unlocked. That would be the true ROI that people can see. That's the true meaning of AI here. Under the hood is just a bunch of algorithms, but what people actually see is ROI, and that would what drives the engagement with the users in the first place.
Thanks, Alex. And I'd love for you to tell us the story of Xero in a minute or less, and how you developed the product, how long it took, and how long between having a product that actually functioned and selling it to a customer.
Thanks, Louis. Actually, it's really interesting. So we know that legal market and legal tech market is very special market, especially if we're talking about the essential products. You cannot go with MVP in many cases. You have to have a very polished product. So we spent more than 3 years building our email application for attorneys from the ground up, and it took us pretty long. So we started in 2018 selling it, and until you have a very polished product that can solve the problem out of the box or the minimal adjustment, the user adoption would be very, very limited. But once you have a polished product that brings ROI immediately, that's where the engagement unlocked.
How long did it take you to develop the product, Alex? And how long between having a minimum viable product and having a paid customer?
So it took us 3 years, and mostly in a stealth mode, working with a couple of firms, law firms here in the Valley, in Silicon Valley, to actually make sure the product is built for the end users. In many cases, what we see with other large legal tech companies is that sometimes they develop the product based on the parameters or expectations from users from decades ago. Like with old joke, when generals are always preparing for the war of the past. The same happens with, in many cases, with legacy systems. So we decided to bring in the Silicon Valley approach to legal tech and putting the users first, attorneys first, giving them back the most precious thing they can have, the time. And that helped us, really helped us to get the value into the user's hands from the very beginning. But it took us 3 years to develop the product. It was pretty advanced and at that time, and then right now it's edge computing for the security reasons, and running everything on devices was a pretty challenging thing to build.
And how long did it take you to get a paying customer once you had that minimum viable product?
Well, that part was pretty easy because we were solving such an important problem. Remember when you and I talked first time, and I asked you to tell me what you consider to be the most annoying problem in your daily routine as a legal professional. You said email management and time capturing. So we were solving those two problems. And it didn't take us too long to get the first customer, probably about 3-4 months since we launched the MVP, and then we've got the first customer, and then it just unlocked.
We're going to come back to that, Alex, because that's how do you get to adoption, I think is something I really want to attack in this webinar. Olga, tell me about how you came to Parley Pro. I mean, you're a very well accomplished lawyer of Silicon Valley, indeed even a luminary, some might say, and now you're the CEO of a legal tech company. How did you make that jump? And tell me more about how Parley Pro is changing the lives of lawyers.
Yeah, let me actually take a step back, because I really like what Steven and Alex has shared about AI, specifically that it is a back-end technology, and the importance of focusing on the application. I've had conversations with lawyers about the future of law and numerous technologies from cloud computing to data to AI to blockchain. And I like to give sort of guidance, because we can get lost very quickly in terms and actual kind of nitty-gritty of technology. But things that matter, and I recommend, when you are looking for technology to improve your practice, to improve your life, to really ask 5 questions. One question is, does the legal technology, whether it's AI or not, solve your top problem today? If you're able to answer that question in a positive way, and that fits into your process and your people operations, it really will help you to adopt technology much sooner. The second question I recommend asking is the legal technology solution intuitive and easy to use? We've now had many apps and tools. Internet has been around for a while, and our expectations of ease and user-friendly are pretty high. And you will find that your department, your law firm, will be highly resistant if the solution you procure is not going to be easy to use. The third question that I recommend asking is, does your legal tech solution help you achieve more with less? The easiest way to really for technology to get in anywhere, whether it's legal department or anywhere else, is efficiency. It's a much easier conversation with your CEO and CFO when you talk about money and how much you can save. Question number 4, can the legal technology solution scale with your business and your team? This is probably the less intuitive question, but the reality is I've been practicing law for about 15 years, and I have seen numerous technologies come and go. This will continue being a trend, because AI is a pretty developed technology. It will develop even more. There are other technologies that are coming up. Your legal department, your law firm will go through a number of transformations in your lifetime. And you really want to make sure you have a partner who will hold your hand throughout this entire journey. And again, the last question is really a question for yourself. Can you stay focused? Can you stay focused on what's important to you, to your clients, and what value you're providing in your business, and how technology fits into that? Now, Louis, I'll be responsive to your question. I'm not dodging your question. I am happy to tell you my life story in 30 seconds. I was a very happy lawyer, and frankly, I still think of myself as a lawyer. I think once a lawyer, always a lawyer. I think the biggest change transitioning from previously general counsel to CEO is that, well, 2 things. One, I don't have privilege. My conversations with internally are not privileged. And 2, I'll practically speaking, as a general counsel, I used to tell people what to do. I gave them advice wherever I went, and I would tell them how the world works. It turns out when the CEO, everybody tells you what to do, and everybody gives you advice. And you have to listen attentively to all your clients and your internal stakeholders. Are probably the top 2 differences. The way I came to this opportunity was completely unintentional. As you know, Louis, I was a very happy practitioner, and I was happily practicing law for 15 years and progressing happily through my career, and always on a cutting edge of technology. This opportunity came completely unexpectedly through the investors of Parley Pro. Parley Pro has been around for 5 years before I joined, has built an amazing product. And just like Alex's product, it took about 3 years to build this easy to use, very collaborative, very transparent solution. And it was built by two amazing technologists who, just like Alex, have talked to many lawyers and realized that this industry can benefit from having a leader at a company who speaks the language and understands the needs and the pain points of the industry. The founders have identified me on a year one when they started building a product. If you talk to them, they'll tell you a story that they got in touch with me and I ignored their email. That allegation is completely false. I don't think I received their email, but it is possible that I do receive many emails, one of which I managed to not see. 4 years later, their investor got in touch with me and asked me to join Parley Pro as a CEO. And in all transparency, I initially declined because remember, I was a very happy lawyer and I was telling people what to do. It doesn't get better in life than that. But then I met the founders. I was very impressed with the technical abilities of the team. I'm a sort of tech lawyer, product lawyer by design. I take things apart. So I was very impressed with the CTO who understood lawyers. You know, I always supported CTOs and product people, and I understood them quite well, but they never quite understood me. The first time I was understood by CTO is at my company. And then I really liked the product. I realized that if I were the general counsel, I would have been a happy customer. I then asked for two things. I asked for a product to take apart and for the customer list for me to talk to. It turns out that I've known many general counsel who were our clients, and I was actually driving around Bay Area and calling all over the United States, asking what I thought friends to talk me out of the nonsense of giving up the practice of law and being the CEO. And actually, what I found was slightly different conversation. All our clients at the time were encouraging me to join because they really felt that the company could benefit from the insider joining and really wanted to make sure that the company continued to grow. So my network was talking me into it. So very serendipitously, it took me about 6 months to go from hell no to hell yes. And I guess in retrospect, I've now been on the job for about a little over a year. For me, the future of law has been, I guess, something I did on the side through the conversation on my Above the Law column, in my ACC column, in my Bloomberg column, in my numerous books and my conversations at ABA, ACC, and various other forums. I always thought of it as a hobby that I enjoy, that I'm not going to be paid for. It only took me 15 years to realize that you can be paid for things you love. So you can, to some extent, say that I'm a slow learner. So that's the past, and that's why I'm here, and that's the value we're adding.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Olga. In one bullet point, can you tell me why I need Parley Pro and why lawyers, especially internal lawyers, need Parley Pro in their companies? One bullet.
3 bullets, but one word. Efficiencies, collaboration, and transparency. We will transform your contracts from toxic assets that you write and take away so nobody ever sees unless there is, God forbid, litigation, to actual digital assets that will help you understand what happens in your contract before and after signature, in creation, negotiation, and management. You will learn from your mistakes, you will learn from your successes, and you will speak the language of business when you interact with the rest of the company.
Thank you, Olga. I'm going to switch over to Steve in a second, but one of the questions we just got is directly relevant, so I'm jumping in here. And somebody asked me how I picked the 3 of you to be panelists today. And as people who follow me know, I'm really passionate about AI and the practice of law and how the practice of law is evolving. And part of that came from my experience trying to adapt my own law practice, leaving big law at DLA Piper, where I used to maintain a large law firm practice, to my new boutique law firm, where I'm really trying to fill a gap in the market for people that really need high touch, effective law solutions with strategies and at price points that make sense. And so each of our panelists here have amazing solutions that I think are changing the way we practice law and are helping me elevate my boutique practice to compete with big law firms. I don't have hundreds and hundreds of people anymore at my disposal, and these technical solutions really allow me to up my game and do what Olga laid out in her 5 bullet points, namely accuracy, efficiency, and cost. And so that brings me over to Steve, because when I engaged in my little boutique law firm, my first sell-side M&A client, I was across from a large Wall Street law firm that is very well known and very prominent in representing private equity firms. And so here I am against a big private equity firm and a big Wall Street law firm, and how was I going to compete? And right away, I remembered Kira from my days at DLA Piper and how we had tried to implement this artificial intelligence solution to do due diligence at scale with efficiency and accuracy. I had never been the guy operating the system, and I didn't know exactly how it worked. And I got quickly connected to Steve's team, and we were able to quickly sign up a subscription, implement the product, and deliver a data room and disclosure schedules that absolutely rocked the deal and made everything go smoothly. And so I'm a big fan of Kira. So sorry for that long intro, Steve, but I would love to tell you for you to answer the same question Alex and Olga did. You know, how did you all bring Kira from ideation to the market, and how quickly were you able to sign up a customer?
First of all, it makes me so pleased to hear that story, because it's one of those things that I think we always imagined people would be able to do to compete and do, it's one thing to be more efficient. It's one thing to be so dramatically more efficient that you can do something you never would have been able to do before, right? With the people that you have. And to me, that's like one of the really cool things that I hear sometimes about Kira. I got involved with Kira after the initial product was already developed. So I met one of the CEO co-founder when I was still working at Thomson Reuters, and I was managing a business unit there. And I was just sort of blown away with what the product did. It was just the co-founders and a couple of developers at the time, and it took them about 3 years. So I think we have like some good data points that 3 years is about the amount of time that it takes to build something. Interestingly, they had just as Olga was saying, like a real problem they were trying to solve. Noah Weisberg, the CEO, was a Weil Gotshal M&A lawyer who had done a lot of diligence and thought there had to be a better way, right? And he found our other co-founder, Dr. Alexander Hudek, who is a machine learning postdoc at University of Waterloo, and they thought they would be able to use e-discovery technology to apply it to contracts with some modifications. That did not go so well, as the story goes. In the first 6 months or so, they tried and realized that they were going to fail doing it that way. So they had to pivot and develop their own machine learning technology that was targeted at finding the kinds of concepts that are in clauses in contracts. So fast forward 2.5 years, and I saw a demo at a conference, and we started talking. And as a former lawyer myself, understanding the pain point of that contract review, just how difficult it is to do that efficiently, and how impossible it would be, Louis, for a firm like yours to do that. I sort of thought, wow, that's really interesting. I wonder if there's any way to work with these guys. And it just worked out. Like about 6 months later, this was now about 6 years ago. I met Noah. But 6 months later, they had just signed a first big customer and were able to think about bringing on a larger team. So I came in with that for sort of wave of hiring to build out our sales and marketing organization, and then eventually product management. And today we're 240 people. So it's been quite a ride since then.
Question from the audience, Steve, for you. Do you see how do you see CLM competitors relative to CRA? And maybe you could tell us what CLM versus CRA means. And then just as many firms are getting CLM, how do you sell to each of them the next level of tech, adopting next level tech when they don't have the basics yet?
Wow, that's a great question. Kind of goes back to what I was saying briefly on the slide, where there are just so many different tools, right? So at Xero, we're focused on really one thing, which is helping you find and analyze the content of the contracts, right? And so we actually partner with CLM companies that use our tech behind the scenes in some cases already. And I think in the future, probably increasingly, in order to do analysis of contracts as they move through the system. So I think CRA was probably meant to, I'm not sure what that acronym was intended to be, but probably contract review and analysis is my guess, which is what we do. So yeah, so our product, yeah, it is designed for lawyers and other professionals who need to go through usually contracts in bulk, but sometimes in smaller numbers for not just M&A due diligence, but also like regulatory compliance, GDPR reviews, LIBOR reviews, those sorts of things are all very common use cases for us now. With CLM, what we're talking about is contract lifecycle management. So this refers to probably something closer to Olga's space, which is where you are working through negotiating the contract. You're maybe starting off with a standard form, then you have to go back and forth with other parties in order to finally get the language that you want. Maybe you have to get approvals, and then after signing, possibly managing all the obligations. And so there's different companies that focus on different parts of that, sometimes the whole stretch and sometimes other parts. As I mentioned, so Xero, we don't see ourselves as a CLM, but we do, where it makes sense, partner with CLM and companies that are in the CLM space for that analysis piece.
Olga, can you tell us how Parley Pro uses AI to do CLM?
Yeah, I'll build on Steve. Steve gave a really great introduction to CLM and CRA. I haven't used that term before, so I will go off Steve's definition. So Steve, no pressure. I hope that was the correct definition.
Well, we might have made a new term just now, Olga, so let's just run with it. Yeah, or you can credit whoever asked the question.
You get all the credit. You also take all the risk. I'll support you on the journey. My view is actually very similar to that of Steve, and Steve articulated really well. You know, CLM is really a process. It's the process of creating, negotiating, and managing, collecting data, doing it in a smart way, involving all the stakeholders, making it transparent, collaborative, efficient, easy to use, delightful, and you know, we strive to be the system of record, the system of engagement, and the system of delight throughout that whole life cycle of a contract. We do use AI. We are not an AI company any more than we are an internet company or electricity company. We do use various technologies to help optimize CLM experience, and for that end, we use AI to streamline creation, negotiation, and management, and creating digital assets and putting data on it, and help you make more educated decisions. So that's where our efforts in CLM, and this is we've kicked off this effort a little while ago. It's gonna mature, and it's gonna thrive in the next few years. We likewise, like Steve described, usually because the client wants to have one, a process, but then two, actually go deep in intelligence and really understand what's in their contracts, and combine with the tool that CLM gives to really make sense of all the data analytics, what's in your contract, make actionable insight, give you opportunity to do with information what makes sense in the context of your business. And that happens in every stage of CLM. It happens in creation, it happens in negotiation, it happens in management. We've worked with a number of clients who, in addition to CLM, procure a solution on AI. Sometimes it is at a stage, meaning creation, negotiation, and management. Sometimes it's, there's some AI solutions that are more industry specific. Sometimes it's more industry specific. And really what we see, and that happens a lot, much more to law firms than that in-house, but I think increasingly will be in-house, is that those are two providers, and it takes sophisticated people to kind of implement. There's really two impediments. One is the cost of recurring CLM, and let's just call it CRA or AI solution that gives you in-depth, and the technology aspect, because at this point, to really make sure that those technologies work, you really need to have a technology to help you connect APIs and really make it do what it's supposed to do in the context of your business. So at this point, it takes a lot of somewhat time and resources to implement. But we, when we work with law firms, because I think law firms understand the concept of technology stack, meaning to really provide good advice in, say, in contracts, you really need more than one solution. You really need the process, and then you need sort of opportunity to provide insights that are industry specific or state specific or some other specific. And many law firms with whom we work, they work with both, and they basically create what I call a bouquet that will work for them. They will work with us. They will work with Kira. We have been combined with HiQ and Kira by a few law firms, and they will create the bouquet that pleases them. What I predict is that over time, this creation of a bouquet will be a whole lot more out of the box. Our CLM is implementation is actually pretty quick and pretty close to what you would call out of the box. But that hooking up to AI solution or any other solution that is specific and goes deep in your contract or whatever your litigation matters, that actually takes time, will take professionals to do that. My prediction is that in the next 3 to 5 years, those will be much more automatic and easy, and the cost will be hopefully a little bit more palatable, not just for big law firms and big legal departments, but for mid-sized companies as well.
Thank you, Olga. And I wanted to kind of flip the conversation now towards adoption. And then I want to talk about roadmap in the time that remains. And I just wanted to share with you and the audience that as a law firm leader in a large law firm, my challenge was, how do I get people to use the tools? Because frankly, having enough bodies was not the challenge. It was getting them to be smarter and use those tools systematically and have processes and procedures. Now, fast forward to the present, while I'm operating a small boutique law firm, I'm working with clients that really care about the efficiency and the cost and the accuracy of our work. And so I need this bouquet, and I love that analogy, Olga, of tools, and each of the three of you form part of my bouquet. So thank you for being here. But I'm actually looking for tools that actually solve the problems, and I'm looking to get people trained and onboarded on the product and using them systematically again. And so I wanted to ask each of you, starting with Steve, what is your best entry point to a customer? Is it the chief technology officer of a law firm? Is it an actual lawyer? Is it a CFO? Who is it that is your entree point into a customer?
Yeah, so
who is your customer, I should say. We should start with who is your customer.
So we are predominantly law firms, although we do have a number of corporate legal departments and other companies. But at a law firm, it's changed so much over the last 5 years. So it used to be that there's a small number of firms that had an innovation department, and they were looking for tools, and those were like the easy discussions, because they wanted to try out new things, and that often sat within the CIO's office, or in the IT, or maybe it was in practice management. Now more and more firms are really expanding on practice management. They have CKOs, chief knowledge officers, who are often very, very interested in what they can do to, sort of change the workflows and approaches to the practice. But I have to tell you, Louis, partners who are innovators, who are thinking like you about different ways to organize, are just are absolutely the best, and I really do find that. That having someone who actually represents the client relationship that's going to benefit from the technology for a tool like ours is absolutely, the best kind of conversation to have. Of course, partners are busy too, so it can be really challenging to do that. but it is really that's the entry point. And then I'll just quickly answer your long-term adoption question. You may remember from your old firm, we had to send people, I think I and several others, to all these different offices around the country and around the world to raise awareness about the tool, so that lawyers would think to use it at that point in time. And that was really a requirement. But even when we did that, it was the partner who was the chair of the US M&A practice who said to everybody, hey, we want you to do it this way. This is going to become a part of the way we serve our clients.
Alex, tell me from your perspective, who is the avatar of your client, and how do you get in, and then how do you land and expand inside your target client?
Amazing question. I would agree with Steve that partners and end users, attorneys and legal professionals are the change agents. So we should understand that there are change agents and change sponsors. So in our case, change agents are attorneys and managing partners, and change sponsors are typically CFOs or CIOs, those people who are interested in making things differently, more effective way. And it is important to understand, and we're actually using this term a lot, combined with ROI, we're using the term, you probably heard it, cost of doing nothing. And it's really important. So there is an old way of doing things, and keep doing it this way. Or if you can quantify it and turn it into dollars, and in our case, we provide the kind of a cost of doing nothing calculator to our potential clients.
I love it.
And they can see, actually, in the first place, they can see that, for example, with 1,000 attorneys firm adopting Xero, on the first day will start bringing ROI, but the cost of doing nothing is over $100 million at the end of the year. And they can have proof points for that on the first day. So there is no brainer for change sponsors to understand why they need to have this new automation technology.
So the cost of doing nothing is not zero. I just wanted to clarify that, Alex.
Cost of doing nothing actually over $100 million for 1,000 attorneys firm.
I love it. Olga, what's your target avatar of a customer, and what's your best entree point? And are you still doing sales as CEO, or is that something that you're kind of really just overseeing at this point in the growth of Parley Pro, or are you in the guts of it?
Well, to me, CEO stands for Chief Everything Officer. So you will be rest assured that I will be involved one way or another in all parts of my business, because for us to deliver excellent services, it all has to sing in unison, and I'm a conductor. So look, we sell to slightly different audience. We sell primarily at this time to in-house lawyers, to corporate departments. We have seen, and this is kind of a moving target to some extent, there is operationalization of in-house practice. And that's why you see the rise of legal operators. That's why you see the rise of chief of staff. And that's why you see the rise of other professionals being in the legal department. Depending who you talk to, you will get somewhere between 10 to up to 60–70% in the legal department, not just being without JD, but also sort of having other expertise, being professionals from other fields. Including data, including technology, including finance, including design, including HR, you name it. So the legal practice is running very differently. Depending where you are in running your department and the evolution who we sell to may differ. Sometimes it's office, directly to general counsel, depending how evolved general counsel is and how comfortable they are with technology. Sometimes it is in operations. Sometimes it's actually a junior member of the team who is technically savvy and leading the way. So because the legal departments are evolving, who is comfortable to have a sophisticated conversation about the technology stack is sort of a moving target, depending on the size, industry, and frankly, how enlightened the general counsel is. I would say our ability to succeed is highly correlated with that enlightenment. So with respect to, how do you sell to that audience? Look, I do agree with Steve and Alex. Efficiency, ROI, that's really like the easiest way to get anywhere. And you really absolutely should lead with that. I find that my conversation with in-house lawyers are maybe a little bit more evolved than my conversations with law firms is because, as a former in-house lawyer, I completely understand the focus on solving problems, like concrete daily problems that your executive, that your board, that your employees have. So basically, I do think that this kind of the tone at the top, the mood in the middle, and the vibe at the bottom really determines the adoption. And really, when we talk to the in-house lawyers, they come with a concrete problem. They're looking for a square peg to fit into their square hole. And
so what is your
they will
challenge to adoption, Olga, and how do you get people to start using the product and expand once you've landed a contract?
So we have optimized, and that's a priority for us, to be easy to use, to easy to onboard, to have a beautiful UI, to make it intuitive. Because as I mentioned in my initial kickoff, we have very high expectations as humans now, because we have phones and computers that are easy to use. And we expect our legal systems to basically be on par. And so in addition to having a fantastic backend technology that solves your problem, we spent quite a lot of time to optimize your onboarding process and your use process, and making it easy and intuitive, and being tutorials and everything being available very easily. So I think that's kind of how you get to easy adoption. You make it very delightful. You make it easy for people to use, and make people look forward to being in the system. When I'm and I'll stop talking. I know I can talk quite a long time, but what gives me pleasure on Sunday is to look at my dashboard of my product and to see how many lawyers are in it on Sunday night. And the reason it gives, if you, we all know that lawyers work a lot. I work a lot. That's not a big secret. But if you make it a priority to be in my product on Sunday night, I think I'm doing something right. Not because you overwork, but because if that's the go-to system for you to manage your contract and at every part, then I think we're onto something to help you be excited about contracts when you show up on Monday.
I love it. I love it. Alex, I'm going to flip back over to you, and your product helps people like me automatically file emails in the right place and get into the document management system. And then my other favorite aspect of your product is you help me do these horrible things called timesheets, and because you automatically populate a timesheet for me based on what I do most of the time. And most lawyers do two things: phone, email, and documents. And if you can track all those things, which you do, you just make my life easier. How do you encourage lawyers to use their mobile email app? And how does that change from the native Apple Mail or Outlook for mobile? And does this impact Outlook on the desktop? Sorry, compound question, but yeah, we're running out of time.
Okay. So quick answer. I would like to start with a quote from Arthur Clarke that any sufficiently advanced technology is undistinguishable from magic. And sometimes when users ask me how that thing works, I like black magic. And there's no question. But we know from physics that the best machine is the one that doesn't exist, but the job is done. So I think the key success, key component in the success of adoption is first ROI, of course, but second, ease of use. So in our case, answering the second part of the question, we made the product so simple and so similar to what people are used to, so they don't see the difference basically, but the job is done. As you mentioned, emails and documents are filed. We provide the automatic filing. And the time entry is being created, and narratives being created. So in this case, we save tons of time, and people just work with email as they used to work and with the documents as they used to work without changing the behavior, but the job is done. I think this is the key to adoption and expansion.
I love it. Steve, how do you solve the adoption problem? And I remember the implementation at my former firm, but I think times have changed, and we're now in 2020. I personally believe that as a lawyer, my ability to compete in the marketplace is directly correlating to how many really good tech solutions that I can adopt to replace humans with technology. But how do you get people to actually adopt the technology? They can have a license, but how do you get them to use it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a challenge that varies depending on the kind of technology you use within a law firm. So, for example, I don't know if Alex has experienced this, but maybe you can get IT in some firms to just say everybody has to use this tool, right? It doesn't always work even for document management systems, right? People save things outside the system and that kind of thing. So there is always a challenge, right? But different degrees depending on what you're trying to do. With Kira, as I mentioned, I think obviously providing people with the sort of, hey, this is going to delight your client and help them understand why that is, like it makes a huge difference. And then once they're hooked on that, they'll always want to use it that way, right? We're actually, I think you're alluding to partially the fact that we can't meet in person and do training sessions and any of that kind of stuff anymore. So we've always really worked hard to make the product easy to use, as you already heard from Olga and Alex as well, so that it's not at all hard to get started. And we have video sort of overviews that are on our support site. We have actually just kicked off an effort to do even more of those, like little shorter snippets of video and walkthroughs, to help people just sort of like figure out how to do things. We've gone so far beyond the one original like M&A due diligence space that like now we're at a point where we have to really know, okay, what is this user trying to do right now, so we can help them get onboarded and really adopted for a wider variety of use cases, some of those, compliance or other types of areas that we're in now. I wish I could say there was the one thing, but it's definitely very context specific, especially as you start to hit different types of workflows with different practice groups and different lawyers doing different things.
I want to ask another question. 10 years ago, I was working with one of the original legal tech companies called LegalZoom. And one of our big challenges was that the state bar organizations were afraid of legal tech and afraid of what we were going to do to disrupt the market. And so they attacked us with lawsuits, calling us unauthorized practitioners of law, UPL, and all sorts of things. Tell me if today, the regulators of lawyers, bar associations, or the like, are they helpful or are they hurtful to the adoption of the tools that you have? And I'll start with you, Steve, because you've been around the longest, I think.
Thank you. I actually have thoughts about this. There are times, of course, when the regulators can be unhelpful, right? Like I think now, though, the regulators have done a lot of work to understand machine learning and artificial intelligence and what it's actually doing, right? We have been involved, I personally have been involved in the ABA, specifically the Mergers and Acquisitions Committee, for about a decade now, actually, since before I joined Kira. And it was a really exciting moment when they created a technology in M&A subcommittee that actually was digging into these ethical questions specifically in the practice of M&A. And they were pretty confident, the people who were in that group, maybe because they were Kira users, they were, many of them, pretty confident that it wasn't an unauthorized practice of law issue at all, because after all, the lawyer still reviews or chooses to review or puts disclaimers on the Kira analysis so that it's clear to everybody that it's not that. They were actually much more interested in things like confidentiality, moving to the cloud, who owns the intellectual property in the training that goes in. Our product allows you to train your own machine learning models, right? To find very practice specific clauses. If you practice in a specialized area, maybe you need to train. I always like to use the example of hospital mergers, like something that, there's some firms that are very, very specialized in, want to like be able to go and train regulatory, like Kira to find regulatory language. Well, that stuff, who owns that, right? And so they're actually working on guidance right now on this range of topics, right? From what you should ask for cloud security to who should own, the data, and then the resulting analysis that comes out of these systems. So happy to go deeper into that, but I actually think they're a friend, right? Like I think it's very important that the ABA be educated and be involved in educating lawyers about these topics.
You absolutely nailed it. And I want to give a shout out to my friend Chaz Rampenthal, who was general counsel at LegalZoom and really made it his job to be the ambassador to all the regulators and to try and, you know, establish positive relationships and drive adoption and cooperation. And Steve, I think that all of these legal tech tools, you need to sell at the top, but you need to drive adoption at the bottom. And you've got to find ways to connect with the younger lawyers and teach them not to be afraid of your product, but to differentiate themselves based on how good they are at using your product. Because in the end, I think technology makes humans better. It doesn't make them irrelevant. Alex, where do you see the product roadmap? Well, Olga, in a short bullet point, regulators, helpful or hurtful to your business, and how do you engage or not engage?
I think I'm a lot with Steve here. It sounds like Steve and I will develop really, and Alex, a really close friendship because we seem to be agreeing quite a lot. Look, CLM is not like a totally new thing. CLMs have been around for a little while. It's just they've been evolving, and there's still some legacy technology out there that, you know, I will not be naming names, but that may be not necessarily quite 21st century. But I'm grateful for to following the footstep of great leaders who now cemented CLM as a must-have technology. And it's really just a question of providing the technology that is top of the art, that is useful, actionable, delightful, easy to use, and all of that. With respect to AI, it's a slightly different question. Again, very similar to what Steve alluded. And you know, I think at this point, we're also grateful for CEOs who and other professionals who've been interacting. And I think even before the pandemic, definitely with pandemic, there's understanding that technology is a part of our life. And I think the discussion has shifted from the unauthorized practice of law, UPL, I guess, it sounds like a derogatory term, to a more of a conversation about what your duties are, which I think is a much more appropriate conversation. We're lawyers, we're licensed by our states. We have duty of confidentiality, we have duty of competence, we have a whole lot of duties. And understanding what it means in the context of any technology, including disruptive technology such as AI, that's something that bars can do to educate us and work with us to develop guidelines, and we absolutely should. I think this approach of kind of explaining our duties, expanding on them, that shift is really helpful, and I think a lot of people will welcome it.
I love it. We're running out of time. Alex, tell us where the AI in the law is moving. You're the techie on our panel. What's next on your product roadmap, and how do you develop a product when you're trying to drive adoption?
I'll be quick with that because we're running out of time. So there are two types of approaches for automation. One is enhancing automation, and one is replacing automation. With replacing, you replace people or processes that people are doing, and enhancing is where you make people do more with less. We at Xero focusing on enhancing people's ability to do more with less and spend time on billable stuff rather than things that consume a lot of your time. And on the other hand, we are focusing on a so-called small automation. In isolation, filing emails, doing your time capturing or document productivity is a small thing, but in isolation. But if you combine them together during one day, there might be 4 hours of time you spend on doing those things. So we are going to basically enhance people's ability to process this thing faster and better. So that's what we're focusing on, adding more things to that under this umbrella.
And finally, you know, quickly for each of you, how much does it cost to use your product? Do you sell a per seat license, or is it a fixed? Is it by gigabyte of use? Tell me what's the best way of doing this, Olga.
We sell per seat, and we are very cost effective. We're very competitive with our competitors. Yes.
So ours is based on the expected volume of use for a firm, basically annual subscription.
Love it. How about you, Alex?
I would say it this way: we are very expensive not to be used. So the cost of not using Xero is absolutely tremendously expensive.
Nailed it, Alex.
Nailed it. I think we're at the end of our allotted time, and we've answered the questions on the Q&A. I want to thank each of our panelists for joining, and we will definitely follow up by email with a copy of the recording and Steve's very awesome slides. And I encourage everyone to reach out to Olga, Alex, and Steve directly to learn more about their products and how they can better drive efficiency, accuracy, and lower cost. Thanks very much, everyone.